And welcome to another edition of the Upstate Orange Podcast. It's Thursday, February 21st, 2013, and we're coming at you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. I'm Jim Sinacropi, and I'm joined in studio by my co-host Matt Verkey.
Hey, Jim.
And Brad Connor via telephone in Cincinnati.
Guys.
Well, we're supposed to have John Wallace, number 44, Orange Legend, on tonight, but we had a little trouble connecting with him, so he may, text you, Verk, in which case we'll get him on, during the course of the show, but as of right now, he's not answering his phone. If you're wondering about the connection, Matt, you played Empire State games with John Wallace. You were both members of state championship high school basketball teams in 1992 and played some AAU together.
Yeah, we used to, back in the high school days, we played a lot of AAU with and against each other, and did some Empire State games a couple times together, and kind of stayed in touch over the years, and obviously hoping to have him on tonight, but didn't work out yet, so maybe we'll get him later.
But we still have a great show on tap tonight because there's just a little bit of stuff going on around the world of Syracuse basketball. We'll recap Syracuse's 38th straight dome win over Providence and look ahead to the game of the century as the Georgetown Hoyas get set to play their final Big East basketball game in the Carrier Dome. So in addition to that, we'll have some great Orange trivia, and we'll take a quick look at action around the country and much, much more. The Upstate Orange podcast is brought to you by Madej, Miris, and Ricky, your hometown personal injury attorneys. If you've been injured and deserve compensation, call the Finger Lakes Personal Injury Hotline at 315-568-0911. And also by Generations Bank, generations of service for over 140 years. Visit them online at mygenbank.com and check out their new mobile banking app. And Newark Pilots Baseball season ticket package is now available for the 2013 season at Colburn Park. Visit newarkpilots.com for more information. Well, I'll skip over all these John Wallace notes and get right to this week's analysis and discussion of Syracuse basketball. 2 games this week, a road win at Seton Hall and then a home win at Providence. Nice way to rebound after losing 3 of their last 5. Come back and win 2 games to set up this Georgetown game. And I think the most impressive thing about the win at the Dome last night was that they didn't look past the Providence game, too. I mean, this Georgetown game is gigantic. 4 o'clock on CBS. The league title at stake. And, of course, one of the last game of the rivalry in the Dome is members of the same conference and, possibly for a long, long time. So it would have been a game that you think Syracuse might have fallen asleep on Providence, who's been red hot, winning, I think, 5 in a row coming into this. And we blew them right off the court in the first half using a 31-5 run to secure the victory early. Did you get a chance to watch the game, Brad?
Yeah, I saw it. It was a good test early, and I thought Syracuse came out a little bit slow, and I was a little bit worried that they maybe wouldn't look past Georgetown. But man, that run, I mean, that was reminiscent of a couple of games we saw last year where they just got going and Providence could do nothing, and it was great to see. It's Providence, so it's not exactly a great indicator of what we're going to see on Saturday, but it was nice to see them clicking on all cylinders for a change.
Yeah, I had my 7-year-old daughter at the game, her first basketball game actually. She's been to a couple football games, but it was a fun game to go to. The crowd was into it. It was a little disappointed in the student turnout, but question I have is if you're a student and you're waiting in line for tickets to that Georgetown game, what do you do during the Providence game? I mean, do you have someone hold your seat and then go to the Providence game? Because it was weird. Just the student section was a little smaller than normal, Verk. But what was your take on the win last night?
I thought that the first half was one of the best halves they played all year, if not the best that they've played in the last couple of years maybe. It was Syracuse at its best. All things were clicking. Carter, we've talked about on the show, and Syracuse at its best when Carter Williams and Trish are finding people, especially Carter Williams. And what did he have, 11 or 12 assists last night? And, he had Sutherland knocking down threes. Trish played good. Everybody really contributed, minus the big guys, really, the 2 centers. But everybody else had a pretty good game. And, when they shoot the ball like that, and they looked like, everybody was a threat. They rebounded the ball, and they got back to playing some of the Syracuse basketball we saw early on this year.
Yeah, it was Nice to see Michael Carter-Williams have a double-digit assist game. He had 12, and he only had 3 assists against Seton Hall, and Trish single-handedly won that Seton Hall game on Saturday, having probably the best game of his career. But I think the reason that Seton Hall game was kind of close and they couldn't blow it open was just because of the way Michael Carter-Williams, distributes the ball and kind of looks for his teammates instead of looking for his shot.
Yeah, he had besides the assist, he shot 5 for 8 from the field, which is right around where he should be, I think, in shot attempts. And overall, not a lot of negatives in that game. I would say, Christmas probably didn't have a very good game. He just kind of looked out of sync again.
That's an issue.
It's definitely an issue. And, Cooney came in, he hit a nice runner. Then he had a 3 that bounced around and went in. And then he kind of missed, a couple
badly
more.
On the other shots.
Some open shots there that you'd like to see him knock it down. He just doesn't make those wide open threes that, for him to contribute, he's got to make.
I watched him pregame, and he probably made 22 or 23 3-point shots in a row. He was out there with McNamara. We got there pretty early, so I could take my daughter and show her every nook and cranny of the dome. And, he couldn't miss, and I laughed because I knew once the game started. But,
right. He came in with a great reputation as this great scorer, shooter, and just really hasn't found his groove yet. And, hopefully I don't really see it happening this year, but, hopefully as he settles in next year, we see him, with that good shooting stroke back. And
luckily, we don't appear to need him so badly anymore now that Nasty Ink, James Sutherland's back. Big game last night, 20 points, 3 for 3 from beyond the arc, and 7 of 8 from inside the arc. And, that's the nice thing about Sutherland is he was hitting a couple mid-range shots. He was scoring in transition. He was rebounding the ball well. He had 6 boards on the night, and there's a huge missing piece. And let's remember that Syracuse only lost 1 game with Sutherland, if I'm not mistaken. Brad, is that right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, the Temple game's the only game they lost with Sutherland's been active. So in a year when we got probably
UConn.
Oh yeah, you're right, Burke. They did lose that UConn game. My bad. That's why I questioned myself because I thought I was wrong.
I was wrong too.
But in a year when 8 to 10 teams have a shot at national title, I think that the Orange is one of them, and I think that our chances keep getting better and better. And as opposed to the past few years when we've just been a spotless regular season and then run into some trouble right before the tournament, it looks like this year that maybe we're putting the trouble behind us, and now we're getting hot at the right time of the year. And we're certainly going to be tested on Saturday. But what'd you think of Sutherland's performance against Providence, Brad?
I mean, you can see what happens when he's in the game. There's so much better flow to the offense, and there's not as much standing around. Certainly, he brings a lot on the fast break, and so when he's out on the wing, there's not an issue. You see waiting for the alley-oop to happen, but even on just a set offense, it just seems like guys are moving, they're not standing still. I think what we saw when Sutherland was out was a lot of standing still, a lot of high ball screen, going one-on-one kind of thing, and there's just not as much of that anymore. And I don't know if you point to Carter Williams looking more to be a distributor instead of a shooter, but it feels like there's a lot more guys just know their roles a little bit better when Sutherland's in the game, I think, and I think that's going to be the best thing going forward for them. The one thing that I think having Sutherland emerge again is sort of put Jeremy Grant back on the bench. He didn't play a whole lot against Seton Hall, and probably didn't do. I don't think he was 3 points or so against Providence. That's one kind of disappointing aspect. But if they can move the ball and score 80 plus points with Jeremy Grant only scoring 3, then I'll take it.
Well, another guy we haven't even talked about yet, probably the most underrated player in the country, C.J. Fair, 19 points, 11 rebounds versus Seton Hall, 20 points, 10 rebounds against Providence. Consistent, smooth, athletic, explosive. He's my favorite player on this team. And now the question with C.J. Fair is does he go into the NBA next year? And most people are saying no, but most 20 and 10 guys, on a top team get a look, and it's a question of, is he going to be where they would project him to go?
Yeah, I haven't heard a lot of talk about that, and I don't know where he's projected at all. I think he, this year he's really improved his outside jumper, and I think he needs to really, he's a 6'7" player. He needs to be able to consistently shoot the ball a little bit better,
Yep.
even though he shoots a high percentage. He just doesn't shoot it a lot from the outside, and I think he needs another year to continue to develop that shot, and maybe he can sneak up into the first round next year.
Let's hope so. What do you think about that, Brad?
I mean, if Chris Joseph wasn't ready after his junior year, I don't think fair is. I think their production is probably similar at the same stage of their career, and I think Joseph was. I don't know if he was helped or hurt by coming back for his senior year, but he wasn't ready at the end of his junior year. I don't think CJ is either.
Well, let's go to the next topic that's probably has me a little concerned. Is our big men. Keita and Christmas are just, non-fat. Christmas was okay last night. He didn't really do anything wrong. He did have 3 block shots, showing he was a little more active, but he also had 3 turnovers and 4 fouls. Only scored 6 points. 3 points against Seton Hall, 2 rebounds in 16 minutes. He only played 16 minutes too last night. He's a one piece this year that we expected more from than we're getting. And it's kind of frustrating because we can see the potential there, and a lot of it just seems to be his aggressiveness or his willingness to be a little more forceful. Part of it, I think, is that, he doesn't ever see the ball with a chance to score in the offense, so he's only getting garbage points and maybe some transition points. But, I'm concerned because you don't see many teams win a national title without a significant force inside, and right now we don't have a significant force inside. What do you think about that going forward, Brad? Center position.
I think it was in the first half, and my son and I were joking about it. Christmas got the ball, and he was about 4 feet away. He was short on the first one. I think he got fouled on the second when it went back rim. Got it again, just to shoot it again. It went back rim again. He missed 3 times from 4 feet away. Got the rebound, missed. Got the rebound, missed again. And I don't know. It's just there's no consistency there with the guy. And we've talked before. Maybe it's mental. Maybe it's. He seems like he's got the skills. I don't know. I mean, I think on this team you have enough weapons offensively with C.J. Fair and Brandon Trish and Carter Williams. I don't think we need offense from him. What we do need is consistent rebounding. And I don't think he's been bringing that, and rebounding is aggressiveness and intensity, and sometimes it's there with him and sometimes it's not. I think with Keita you get that more, but, Keita's not the physical presence that Christmas is or could be.
True. Yeah, I agree. Christmas brings that, he's kind of a wild card. He's so athletic, and you just feel like he could be so good, but, you see him make a couple moves where they actually do throw him the ball, and, he forced it a couple times last night, I thought, and didn't really get great shots off. He traveled the one time. Then the one time on the fast break, he got the block and kind of stood there, and the guy came in from out of bounds and got the ball back and put it back in. He just seems, to get out of position a lot for the rebounds. He going after a lot of shot blocks, which is fine. But, I think he leaves them vulnerable sometimes on the boards by getting out of position. And, Keita, I think, does a great job defensively. But he just lacks a little bit of the athleticism that Christmas brings. I think Christmas is the future at that spot, and he's got a ton of potential. It just needs to realize it. And and you hear Bam say it all the time that they can't throw the ball into the big guys and hope they can score. It's just really not an option for this team. And luckily they typically have 4 other guys who can score the basketball. So that center position is kind of back to the Craig Forth type.
Just don't make mistakes.
Right. And
be in the right spot on defense.
Yeah. I don't think Boeheim's asking these guys to do a whole lot, and they're, kind of following his lead. They're not doing a whole lot, really. So you just hope that they can, defend and rebound. That's all you need.
Yeah, seems like a simple request. I don't know if you guys noticed, but late in that Providence game last night, they put Grant in center position, and they had a back row of Sutherland, Grant, and Fair. I kind of like that because anybody that watches Grant when he's playing in the zone on the wing, he's probably the most impact player defensively. He seems to be contesting every shot at the rim. He's not really undersized, at the 5 position. He's a little thin, a little skinny, but his athleticism, he doesn't get bumped around in there.
I think we talked about that as a way to get him more minutes, either moving Sutherland up to a 2 or playing Grant at the 5, which I think that was kind of scrub time kind of is why he was in there at the 5. But I don't know what the answer is to get him more minutes. He it's not like he played bad yesterday. He just we talked about it before. Who would you rather have out there, Sutherland and Fair, or where do where does he fit in?
And again, I like moving Sutherland up to the guard position to spell Trish or Carter Williams instead of bringing in Cooney, and then Grant gets more minutes that way. Another interesting thing about Grant that I was thinking about is if he's playing in the center position on defense, on the offensive end, when they set that high screen pick and roll, which is the play that they run 50% of the time, I kind of like having Jeremy Grant roll off that high screen to the basket more than Christmas. Grant seems like a guy that you can look for on that pick and roll a little more, that might be able to have some more conversions than maybe Christmas. So I don't mind seeing that look a little bit, and I wonder exactly why Boeheim did that. He consciously did that, maybe just to see what it looked like, or maybe to get Grant a taste because that potentially might be a lineup they need going forward. If Keita and Christmas are in foul trouble, what are you going to do? Coleman's coming back, I suppose, supposedly by next week. But
that doesn't make me too excited.
No, I don't think he's the answer. What do you think about Jeremy Grant playing center for Syracuse, Brad?
Athleticism. You wonder, can he hold down the middle of the zone on defense? I mean, offensively, you're going to get a lot more production from him than you are going to get from the 2 guys. I think it's hard to ask a freshman to play the center of that zone. We've seen guys try to do that in the past, and that seems to be where Boeheim really has the quick hook. When he had, Fab Melo in as a freshman, and he'd make one mistake in the middle of the zone, and he'd come out for Christmas. We get that same hook last year, and then Coleman this year. I mean, so I think he tolerates mistakes in the zone far less from the center spot than he does elsewhere, because you can yourself so much. So I worry about that a little bit with Jeremy Grant in the middle of that zone. Offensively, though, I think it's a great weapon to have.
And it could depend on the game. If they get behind or something, they need some more scoring. Maybe it's something they can go to. And if they got the lead, obviously, and don't need the scoring, leave Christmas or Keita in there, and go with a better defender.
Well, one more note on the Providence game before we kind of move on to some great Orange trivia, and then talking about Syracuse-Georgetown game, which has me a little giddy thinking about, was I mentioned I was at the Dome early last night, and I was along press row, and they put the names of the reporters on a piece of paper and tape them on top of the table where they're going to sit. And as I was standing there on the baseline next to the rope, I look over, and there's Kevin McNamara of the Providence Journal, guy who's been writing about the Big East since the beginning, guy who wrote a great book called Basketball Warfare that I'd recommend to any Syracuse fan or Big East basketball fan to read. A fantastic book about the origins of the Big East basketball and football, and some great stories from throughout the years. It was written a good 5 or 6 years ago, but great book by Kevin McNamara if you can find it. And I thought to myself, what's Kevin McNamara feel about this? Coming to the Dome for the last time, as Providence. His whole career has been covering the Big East, covering Syracuse versus Providence. Obviously, Syracuse is always a star on Providence's schedule. And, the uncertainty of what maybe the next 10 years of Kevin McNamara's career holds after, being such a fixture of the Big East media. I mean, you know who I'm talking about, Brad, Kevin McNamara?
Yeah, I'm familiar with him.
I always love reading his stuff.
Yeah, does great work.
And, I just kind of think about all the people affected, by us going to the ACC and the breakup of the Big East, and just how things are changing for everybody. All year long, it's the last game this for everybody, and it's just kind of sad.
I mean, like Providence, you're not going to see as much of that lament because they're still going to be with Georgetown. They're with St. John's, Seton Hall. There's not as much change for those guys as there will be for.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. As there is for us.
Yeah, but it's an end of a dynasty. It's the end of an era that everybody's going to lament, especially if you've grown up with it like we have.
Well, and Kevin McNamara left the Dome last night. He probably had to be thinking, when's the next time I'm going to walk in this building?
Maybe never.
Yeah, maybe never. And for a guy who's done it for 30 years, or however many years he's been doing it, close to 30, they had to be sad. I'm sure it was.
You see the Providence jerseys, they've got the little patch on there for Dave Gavitt. And, that made me think a little bit, what would Dave Gavitt think about all this nonsense that's going on now?
Oh, he'd obviously be upset, probably rolling over in his grave.
I was interested to see that Vincent Council was the Big East leader in all-time assists.
He beat Sherm Douglas's record, yeah.
It's
hard to believe.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that, and I just think, watching him, he's obviously a great player, and he's got that assist record without the benefit of really great finishers around him. Michael Carter-Williams has got some great finishers on the Syracuse team to play with him, and Providence doesn't have that type of athlete or finisher, and the fact that he's averaging 7-8 assists a game himself, and he's just not eligible because he missed so many games. He doesn't have enough games in to be eligible and NCAA wise. But he's a great player, obviously. And
Sherm Douglas had guys like Coleman and
he's just
Billy
not a guy
Owens.
you hear of nationally to be the all-time Big East leader in assists. I think
Yeah, you don't think of him that way. I thought he was a great player, but I honestly was surprised at the assist totals. But obviously, congratulations. That's a great mark, beating a guy like Sherm Douglas.
Sure.
So,
but it's like we've talked about all season. There's such good talent on that Providence team, but you saw last night. I don't know if it's just they don't play together, or they don't play good defense. What it is, but they can score the ball.
And I thought early on, their man-to-man defense was terrific. For the first 10 minutes of the game, and then all of a sudden everybody was open. And, Syracuse was really struggling there early on to score. And then, the floodgates opened. They went on that, 27-2 run, and it was over. But, it seems like they're capable in stretches, but can't
they're the best team in the
game.
country, no doubt, in stretches. When they do that, there's nobody that can touch them. It's just we need to see more of that. And it's been a long time since we've really seen a run like that. And Syracuse traditionally is a team of runs, They go on these runs. They'll trade baskets with a team and then eventually go on a 15-3 run to blow a game open. And last night, what was it, a 31-5 run? That's about as big a run as you're going to get in the Big East. So we're going to step aside and take a short break. When we come back, we're going to discuss that Syracuse-Georgetown game. But before we get to that, we're going to do some great Orange trivia courtesy of Brad Connor. So hang tight after this word from our sponsors. Attention Finger Lakes residents, have you been injured and deserve compensation? Call Madej, Maris, and Ricky, your hometown personal injury attorneys. Your case deserves personal attention. At Madej, Maris, and Ricky, they know you by name, not just a number on a folder. Call the Finger Lakes Personal Injury Hotline at 315-568-0911. That's 315-568-0911. Madej, Maris, and Ricky, your hometown personal injury attorneys.
The Newark Pilots. See tomorrow's Major League stars today. For more information, go to newarkpilots.com.
The most valuable things are always passed down from generation to generation. It's true for your family, and it's true for our bank. For more than 140 years at Generations Bank, we've greeted you by name, planned with you for the future, and stood by you when you needed a hand. It's what we do, and what we'll continue to do for generations into the future. We might look different now, but in the important ways, we're exactly like we've always been. Stop in your local branch or go to mygenbank.com.
Welcome back to the Upstate Orange Podcast on FingerLakes1.com. Big game coming up Saturday. 35,012 fans will pack the sold-out Carrier Dome. Never been sold out before. And they're going to see Syracuse and Georgetown play for potentially the Big East regular season title in what's the last Big East Conference game Georgetown will ever play in the Carrier Dome. We're going to talk about that, preview it a little bit, talk about some Georgetown memories. But first, one of our favorite segments in the Upstate Orange Podcast, it's time for Connor's Corner Trivia. What do you got for us this week, Brad?
First of all, I want to commend you, Jim. Kudos on the strong trivia last week in my absence.
Ah, yes. I do what I can.
It was entertaining for me to listen to afterwards. He had some good stuff that I didn't even have a good handle on. So that was good. But hopefully I can return the favor again tonight. Wanted to see how well you guys know not only our current crop of Syracuse Orange players, but some of the guys in history. Wanted to see if you guys can tell me where these players hail from.
Okay.
Where their hometowns are, potentially what their high schools are. How well do you know that for these guys? So let's get this started with an easy one. CJ Fair.
Baltimore, Maryland.
I don't know his high school.
Yeah.
I can't think of the high school either, but he's from Baltimore.
Brewster Academy.
Brewster. I think I'm going to know a lot of towns, but not high schools. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Trevor Cooney.
From PA.
Canada. He's a Canadian.
Wrong, both you guys.
No, he's not from Canada.
No.
Or from PA.
Well, he went to prep school in New Hampshire or Connecticut, maybe.
No, he went to a prep school right up the road from where he's from. I don't even think it's a prep school. It's just a private high school.
Well, obviously we don't know. You better hit us up.
He's from Wilmington, Delaware.
Yes, I knew that.
Stanford School in Wilmington, Delaware.
Why did I think he was
Only
Canadian?
player in the history of Syracuse to go to be from Delaware.
Wow, there's some trivia for you. Not a hotbed.
Michael Carter Williams.
Rhode Island.
Here's a little trick. He's actually from Massachusetts, but he went to high school in Rhode Island.
Right. And the name of this...
Benajay.
Benajay. There you go. That sounds familiar now that you say it.
Where's Michael Benajay?
Oh, Benajay. I thought, where was Carter Williams High School?
Oh, St. Andrews School.
Is that a golf course? Benajay, Duke player. Jeez.
Indiana?
No.
No idea.
I'm going to say New York City with him.
No, Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Don't know much about him, but, an interesting thing when they kind of do the intro prior to the start of the game and the national anthem, they play a little thing at the Dome where they play each player says their name and their hometown. I should have been listening closer last night, but they include Benajay in that presentation, even though he's not officially on the team yet. He's redshirting.
Right. Yeah, he's going to be a nice player. The high school he went to was a military high school right up the street from where I used to live in Richmond.
So he should be disciplined.
There is one Canadian on this team.
On our team right now?
And it's not Trevor Cooney.
Is it one of the walk-ons?
And he scored last night.
Oh. One of the walk-ons, obviously, it was...
Who was the walk-on that scored last night?
Black guy at the end of the game there.
Noel Jones.
Noel Jones is from Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Why did I think Cooney was Canadian? I'm going to double-check your trivia.
Trevor Enos.
He's never been
Tyler
Canadian.
Ennis?
Tyler Ennis.
Canada. What's that?
Tyler Ennis is from Canada.
Tyler Ennis is from Canada.
So is
He
Chris.
plays now in New Jersey at St. Benedict's. But
Chris Joseph as well.
yeah, James Sutherland, where's he from?
He's another Baltimore recruit. I'm going to say, Brad.
Burke, any guess?
The city, New York City?
Yeah, Bayside, Queens.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, that rings a bell. Boy, we're really losing some legitimacy. We have a Syracuse Orange podcast. We can't remember where some of these kids went to high school.
All right, we'll go deeper then. We'll make it easier on you guys. Where was Jerry McNamara from?
Scranton.
Any idea on his high school? I wouldn't have known this, but I
Scranton
recognized
East?
it when I saw
Scranton East?
I don't know.
And then Bishop Hannon High School.
What's the name of that again?
Bishop Hannon.
Bishop Hannon. Ah, yes. Scranton. Prior to Scranton.
Where was Sherman Douglas from?
Washington, D.C.
What high school? Any idea?
I should know this one, but...
Go off the top of my head for some reason. Some of these stuff just sticks in my head.
That's right.
And here's a clue. He and Dave Bing went to the exact same high school.
Don't know.
Spingarn.
Spingarn. Yeah, that one doesn't ring a bell.
Where was Stevie Thompson from?
Crenshaw High. Los Angeles, California.
That's correct. Lawrence Moten.
D.C.
Another D.C. guy.
Nope.
Um,
Raphael Addison.
Ooh, you're going back with this one. He's a New York City product.
Anytime we can build Raphael Addison into trivia.
Christ the King.
What's that?
Christ the King High School.
No, but you're close only because one of the guys on his team played at Christ the King.
Pearl Washington?
He's from Boys and Girls.
Oh, yeah. Wendell Alexis?
Alexis was from
Christ the King.
Yeah, in Queens.
So what's the answer with Raphael?
Jersey City.
Jersey, that's right. He was a
But
Jersey
not
guy.
St. Anthony. He didn't play for Bob Hurley. There was one player on this in recent Syracuse history that did play for Bob Hurley in Jersey City at St. Anthony.
On this team?
No,
Oh.
in the last 10, 15 years. Last 10 years.
Played for Bobby Hurley.
I don't know, Waku. Jeez. I'm drawing a blank on this one. Mookie Jones, Poughkeepsie, New York.
He went to
Mookie Jones from Peekskill, New York.
Peekskill, that's right, Peekskill.
same as Elton Brand.
Pride of Peekskill. I'm drawing a blank, Brad.
Terrence Roberts,
Yeah, that's right,
which is shocking if you know anything about Bob Hurley and the St. Anthony game program, as discipline.
We don't need to recruit from that program anymore after getting Terrence Roberts.
Louis Orr from?
Another New York City product, I believe.
No.
He's from Western New York, like Buffalo? No.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know on this one, Brad.
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I don't know the name of the high school.
Went to the same high school as my grandparents, believe it or not.
Really?
Yes, that's correct. Herman Hareed, where is he from?
The helicopter.
He's New York City.
No, he's
He's a great high school
Baltimore.
coach now in the same city.
Baltimore, Maryland, I'm going to say.
Correct. Very good,
Really?
Jim.
Got a lot of recruits from Baltimore over the years.
Here's a combo poo-poo platter for you. Sean Cairns and Sonny Sparrow were both from the same high school. Which one? Or what city even?
DeMatha.
No, I know it's isn't it like it's a New York? No, I don't know.
It's in New York State.
It's shoot.
I have no idea.
I'll give you Section 4.
A Section 4 school, huh? So that's like
Schenectady or Shenandoah.
Union Endicott.
Union Endicott.
Ah, there you go. Down near Binghamton, right?
Yeah. Endwell, New York. Dante Green, where's he from?
He's from Baltimore as well.
That's right. He went to the same high school as Carmelo
Carmelo,
Anthony before
yeah.
Anthony went to Oak Hill. Nelson Catholic.
Very nice.
Hopkins. Where's Mike Hopkins from?
He is from California. I want to say Laguna Beach.
Laguna Beach is correct.
There we go. Got to know your Mike Hopkins trivia. He's the next coach. Our current coach is from Lions, New York. Our next coach is going to be from Laguna Beach, California.
There's a lot in common with Lions and Laguna Beach.
They both start with L.
Both places, I can tell you they're very similar. Mater Day was, or Mater Day.
Yep, that rings a bell.
It's a pretty famous school, a lot of success there. Howard Trish.
Jamesville DeWitt?
No.
Fayetteville Manlius?
No, keep guessing.
She's what others? CBA?
No.
Well, it's obviously one of these upstate Section 3 Syracuse area schools. Corcoran, there you go. That does ring a bell. And, of course, Brandon Trish from Jamesville DeWitt, along with Andy Routens and DeJuan Coleman.
Marty Head.
Oh, jeez. No idea. I'm going to say...
CBA.
Oh, really? No kidding. He was a local product.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until I looked it up.
His name was always easy for me to remember as a third grader.
It's just like
Because he was bald. Marty Head. He had no hair.
Pace. Where was Josh Pace from?
You know, a lot of people compare C.J. Fair to Josh Pace.
It's not even close now.
But, yeah. See, I mean, Pace was great at what he did, but C.J. Fair's at a whole nother level. Bloomington, Indiana.
Not a bad guess. Somebody else on that same team was from Bloomington, Indiana, but it wasn't Josh Pace.
Really?
Yes.
Quite Dewaney.
Dewaney was from Africa.
But, well, originally, right? But he went to high school in Bloomington, Indiana.
Oh, okay. There you go. Well, our
figured-
producer Jeremy Hunt had the call on that one.
I was thinking because his brother went to Indiana, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Wisconsin, I think, didn't he? Dwayne?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
right.
Wisconsin.
Dwayne. He had the better
There's a third
name.
Dwayne too.
Dwayne.
There's a, like Bill Dwayne, I think it was.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So where's Josh Pace from? Just give me the state.
Michigan.
No.
California.
No, Georgia. Griffin,
Georgia. Probably one of our only recruits ever from Georgia.
Yeah, there's not many. I can actually probably tell you. Two guys from Georgia. Walk-ons, the other guy from Georgia, so we won't count that. Where was Otis Hill from?
Oh, it's New York, but it's a little up. It's
Didn't he play at Oak Hill?
no, he's.
Did you play him in Empire State?
I played against Otis Hill in AAU and Empire State games.
Yeah.
But when he was playing Empires, he was playing for Central from Syracuse. But he's a little bit further down south originally from high school. I can't remember.
White Plains.
White Plains,
yeah.
New York.
Tom Thomas. This one I wouldn't have guessed, but then once I saw it, I remembered. It's very random.
So it's not Maryland or Baltimore. Again, I was just going to say Baltimore
Oh.
for everything. Not Philadelphia. We didn't mention any Philadelphia.
Virginia.
No, because those guys are too easy. Not Virginia.
No.
I figured you know all the Philly guys.
Yeah.
Florida?
Also Oklahoma, Tom Thomas.
Oh, wow.
The only scholarship player from Oklahoma.
Ever.
Shouldn't surprise you. Yeah.
Wasn't who played there behind fourth, the other center? Wasn't he from Texas or something?
Jeremy McNeil? He was
Yeah.
from Texas, yeah.
Texas, yeah.
Like Lubbock or Plano?
San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio. Wonder what old Jeremy McNeil's up
Hey,
to.
who was the last guy that Syracuse recruited from Detroit? Or the last guy they got from Detroit?
Devendorf.
No, it was James Theus. Oh, yeah, Devendorf. But Devendorf and then James Theus.
Devendorf wasn't on Bay City is not exactly Detroit.
Okay, I got you. Then I'm going to say James Theus.
No. More recent than that.
Oh.
Put out.
Help us out.
He plays in Detroit right now.
He plays in Detroit right now.
Michigan. He played in the DeShante Riley.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, he plays for Eastern Michigan now.
Funny that they had a good Detroit pipeline, but it kind of dried up after a while. Like Todd Bergen was from Detroit. Eric Sandifer. Where was Eric Sandifer from? I had no idea about this.
Me neither.
He's from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Oh, wow.
Syracuse just went right in Michigan's backyard and plucked him right out of in front of their nose. Became one of the great players in the history of early Bayheim Syracuse history.
Without a doubt. Give us one more, Brad, and then we got to turn our attention to Georgetown.
All right, let me see a good one here. Hold on.
I can do all the Rochester guys and see if you can name them.
Yeah, John Wallace.
We talked about Section 5 guys, so that we weren't going to go that route.
Right.
Here's some trivia. Where is John Wallace right now?
Not on the phone
Not
with
on
us.
the phone with us.
Tony Red Bruin.
Ooh, I feel like I should know this one. He was a New York City guy, right?
He was. Queens. Astoria, Queens.
Astoria. Well, there's some good trivia for you. A little geography lesson, too.
Oh, I got one more. This is the one I wanted. Dave Johnson.
Dave Johnson. You know, in a future show...
Christ the King.
No.
In a future show, we're going to give our top 5 dunkers of all time at Syracuse, and I think I put Dave Johnson on that list at number 5, but that's for another show. As far as what high school Dave Johnson went to, no recollection.
Dave Johnson is from Morgan City, Louisiana.
Now you say it, I know it. It was hidden there. It just need to be unlocked.
I drove through Morgan City, Louisiana once. There's not a lot there.
No, I imagine Dave Johnson came from a poor but proud family. So, and then he went on to play for the Portland Trailblazers for a brief stint.
But not very long.
No. Well, great trivia, Brad. for the final 15 minutes or so of the show, I think we really need to turn our attention to this Syracuse-Georgetown game. It's sold out. Over 35,000 expected. Before we get into talking about the actual game, I know, Verk, I know you don't hate Georgetown, right? You don't hate Georgetown.
No.
I do. Brad, do you hate Georgetown?
There was a time when I really hated them. I think that hate's kind of waned. I think I'm more... I hate UConn more, I think, now.
Yeah. I mean, that's the debate, but I still get up more for Syracuse, Georgetown than UConn, especially this year. But, I was going to ask you guys, when was the first moment that you really started hating Georgetown, and for me it was 1984. I was probably about 12 years old, and Syracuse was playing Georgetown in the Big East Final at Madison Square Garden, and Michael Graham punches Andre Hawkins, and they call a flagrant foul, and then whoever was ref in that game got a little intimidated by John Thompson Sr., Paparo rescinded the call.
He had his thumb raised. He was going to eject Michael Graham, and he never did.
And not only that, but they didn't even call the flagrant. Hawkins ended up with a one-on-one instead of 2 shots in the ball. Syracuse goes on to lose in overtime. Jim Boeheim in the press conference walks up to the mic and says the best team didn't win tonight, and walks out and throws a chair across the room. But I remember as a youngster, 12 years old, thinking to myself, these Georgetown guys are just pure evil. Look at these guys, they're brutes. And then he punches one of our players and gets just a one-on-one free throw for Hawkins, and they make refs change the call because they're so intimidating. I really, at that point was just deeply embedded in my soul a hatred for Georgetown. And any memories you remember, Brad, that really stick out as
I had a different one, but what you just described was exactly what was the formative memory that I had. I hated him from that day. When Michael Graham didn't get kicked out of that game, he got punched, and he punched Andre Hawkins. That was when my hatred for Georgetown kind of peaked. But as far as great memories of Georgetown games, I mean, there was the game where Georgetown came in number 1, and like 5 minutes into the game, some student threw an orange at the backboard, and
while Ewing was shooting free throws,
off, and Boeheim got on the loudspeaker and said, "I'm going to tell the referees to give us a technical foul the next time somebody does that," and it killed whatever momentum Syracuse had at the time, and they went down big in the first half and came back, and Pearl hit a shot with about 10 seconds to go to win that game.
A little behind the back shake and bake with Michael Jackson on him.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, it shouldn't have had to come to that, because the whole momentum got killed when that orange hit.
Well, that game in Madison Square Garden I was talking about, Syracuse started a lineup of Pearl Washington and Gene Waldron and Raphael Asson, Sean Kierans, and Andre Hawkins. They lost 82-71 in overtime. Pearl had 27. And they would have won that game, most likely, had the call stood. And also some of my favorite games in the Dome, I think that might be one you were just talking about, Brad. It was on January 28th, 1985. It was one of the first, it was a weekday ESPN game. Syracuse won 65-64. Raphael Addison, 26 points. He slams the ball into the old tartan surface at the Dome after the game. Georgetown was number 1 at the time. Sports Center led with it. And I remember that as a youngster watching that game and just feeling so good because it came, 1 year later after that Big East tournament loss to Georgetown. And the starting lineup for that game, Pearl Washington, Michael Brown, Ronnie Cycli, Raphael Asson, and Andre Hawkins.
I remember it was Big Monday. I mean, Big Mondays are big now. They were enormous back then.
Yeah.
That was one of the few games you had during the week. ESPN didn't have games on every night.
That's right. Yeah, there certainly wasn't the whole plethora of games available to watch, either online, ESPN3, or on one of the 8 cable channels.
I mean, you couldn't even watch all the Syracuse games living in Central New York.
No.
They weren't even all on.
I listened to them on the radio.
I remember when Charles Smith went coast to coast there and laid it in at the buzzer.
For Georgetown, yeah.
at the Dome.
Yep, that was kind of shocking because that looked like a game Syracuse was going to win, and then Charles Smith, you're right, took a coast-to-coast game over.
I love the game that was about 1990 when Thompson got 3 technicals.
89, that was March 5th.
Waving the towel going out. Syracuse got 6 free throws.
March 5th, 1989. I was at that game with my dad. They won 82-76 in overtime. Coleman had 21 points and 13 rebounds. It was number 6 versus number 2. And you're right, Thompson gets ejected. He was wearing a Louis Carnesecca sweater, if I remember right. Or maybe it wasn't.
He was wearing a sweater. He only wore that Louis one when they played St. John's to make fun of Louis. But he was wearing some weird sweater vest thing.
He put up both hands and shot him at the crowd kind of in disgust as he was walking off. And you don't see that kind of stuff anymore. You don't see coaches ever get ejected anymore. Thompson got ejected a number of times in his career.
He relished it almost. You know,
Yeah.
he walked. He was like the wrestling heel. You know, he said, "All right, Boomy, come on, bring it on." You know.
Now, the thing about that game is Georgetown had the game won. Like 2 seconds maybe left in regulation. Syracuse down 3. Maybe two or 3. They inbounded to Billy Owens. He heaves a half-court shot.
Half-court.
And he gets fouled. It was 3 free throws. This was after the three-point line in 1989. Billy Owens goes to the line with no time in regulation and makes all 3 free throws. Syracuse ends up winning in overtime. One of the best games I've ever seen in the Dome.
You know when they put the 3-point line in?
Greg Monroe's senior year, the first year Syracuse went to the Final Four.
87.
Yep. Benefited.
Great year.
Yeah. Syracuse, Indiana.
3-point line.
I remember one Syracuse Georgetown game in the Big East tournament, and Pearl and Ewing both punched each other running down the court.
Oh, yeah.
Ewing caught Pearl like in the ribs, and then next time down, Pearl punched Ewing in the gut, and then Ewing tried to swing at Pearl and missed. Pearl ducked it.
That was a roundhouse.
None of the technicals, they didn't get kicked out. I mean, there's no way you'd be suspended for 4 games. You did that now.
Now you got to be a little more subtle, like Nix and Zeller for Michigan State and Indiana, just a little nut tap.
But Nix didn't get suspended. Or
He
anything.
should have. He should have been at least a technical.
Yeah, I can vividly remember that roundhouse Ewing threw, and if it ever hit Pearl, he may have died.
On the spot.
But you're right. That's a play on. Let's get these guys separated.
Big East basketball.
That's almost enough to get you kicked off a team nowadays. Just banned for the season. But that's the way it was. And if you're ever looking for a interesting view on YouTube, look up Syracuse Cornell basketball fight, and you want to see a roundhouse, check out Derek Coleman, what he does to those poor Ivy Leaguers. But again, I don't even think Coleman was ejected from the game. So, times have changed. Probably for the better in that regard, but it just goes to show how deep the hate was. Pearl hated Ewing, and I'm sure Ewing hated Pearl. I mean, genuinely hated each other. So, and I think Boeheim genuinely hated Thompson back then. I think as years went on, they kind of had a mutual respect. But I think early on, especially when Georgetown was top ranked, I think Boeheim genuinely hated that guy.
Well, I think Thompson, when he called Manley Fieldhouse officially closed, that was, I think that stuck under Boeheim's skin for a long time.
You have to wonder, after 30 years of this rivalry, do you want to see it continue after this, or do you think this is it? Do you want to see him play in a non-conference game in December?
Sure.
It depends.
It wasn't in December. I wish they could do it in February for at CBS 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon.
And they probably can. Schedule-wise, it's...
They don't do as much of those anymore as they used to. Shown on MSG or on SNY, Syracuse, Michigan State from 2003 in the championship year that they played on a Sunday or Saturday afternoon in February. I don't remember them doing it much recently, even since then.
Yeah, it's all league play, pretty much after January almost now.
Yeah.
Well, I want to see it end. I actually wouldn't mind seeing this end if Syracuse wins tomorrow, especially, and then again when they meet again in Washington, D.C. As long as Syracuse wins the last game or two, because we've dominated the series of recent history, then I'm fine with kind of letting it go because it will never be the same, and it might even cheapen it a little bit. I still want to play St. John's, Villanova. I'd like to meet Georgetown occasionally, but I think to put it on the schedule every year to year kind of will cheapen the greatness of the rivalry. So, I'm kind of not for it. But if we lose, hopefully we get them on the schedule next year. Because I don't want to go out like that. But looking at the game Saturday, you got Georgetown, winners of 8 straight. They beat UCLA, Tennessee, Texas. They won at Notre Dame. They beat Louisville, Marquette. They beat St. John's twice. They won at Cincinnati. Their losses to Indiana in overtime on a neutral court, which showed right there how legit they were. They lost at Marquette. They lost at home to Pitt, and then they lost at South Florida. And really the only anomaly game kind of that doesn't make much sense. But this is a Georgetown team that's as hot as any team in the country that's coming to the Dome on Saturday, led by one of the best players in the country, and Otto Porter Jr. How about that? Led by a guy named Otto.
Hopefully it's a good omen for the Cuse. Yeah, I mean, obviously Georgetown's just about to crack the top 10 here after kind of a slow start. They've won 8 in a row, and Syracuse is going to have their hands full. At one point Georgetown was 2-3 in the Big East, I believe, and now they're 10-3. So after kind of a slow start, they're like you said, playing as good as any team in the country, and they don't have the big name studs that you usually think of with Georgetown, things like that. Otto Porter kind of flew under the radar until he had having a great freshman year last year. But, he's a premier player in the league and a candidate for player of the year, I think, in the Big East. So, obviously, Syracuse is going to key on him, and should be a great game and a great atmosphere. And I'm going to be there and really looking forward to it.
Porter, 15 points on almost 8 rebounds a game. And that's a lot of points for a team that doesn't score many points. Is a contrast to the way Providence approached the Syracuse game. This Georgetown team is going to try to slow it down. And that could hurt us, but I think as long as we play great defense in the zone, which I think we will for a game like this, I think they're going to come ready to play defense for 40 minutes. We should create some points off of turnovers, and then hopefully guys like Sutherland making their shots, Trisha's making his shots, and I predict a victory in the Dome. It might be a little harder when we head down to D.C., but that, I guess, also depends on how many Syracuse fans they let in the building down there. Because if they let as many as they come in, you're going to get a 50-50 split. But they've been trying to limit that over the years. What's your prediction, Brad, for Saturday's game?
Brad, if they're moving the ball like they did last night, then I'd like to think Syracuse wins by 10-12. I think at their best, Syracuse is that much better than Georgetown. Now, if Georgetown's defense, they've got one of the best defenses in the country. They could really gum up what Syracuse is trying to do, and then prevent a lot of the flow and movement. And if that's the case, we might see something ugly, a 55-53 kind of game that then it's anybody's ball game.
What do you think, Burke?
Yeah, I think Georgetown's really going to try to take the air of the ball. We saw Georgetown win some really ugly, low-scoring games this year. I think they had the one game was 36-35 against Tennessee. Georgetown really they want to take the air of the ball. They want to run through their offense. I think the zone really helps Syracuse in this instance because Georgetown runs that Princeton-style offense, so Syracuse won't have to chase as much as some of these man-to-man teams do. So I think that's to Syracuse favor. And like Brad said, if Syracuse moves the ball and they offensively play, and Carter Williams is dishing to everybody, and they play like they did in the first half against Providence, I see Syracuse by 10-11, but I think Georgetown's going to put up a little more resistance than Providence did, obviously.
And honestly, with the whole history of things and 35,000 and CBS Sports on 4 o'clock on a Saturday, which a lot of people say, why isn't this a college game day Saturday for ESPN? Well, the game's on CBS, so that was kind of off the table. But I think that we could be in store for something really special, just when the atmosphere's like this and the end of this great rivalry needs to have a great final chapter. So I think it's going to be an exciting game, and I wouldn't be surprised to see an amazing finish, especially if it's in the vein of the games that we've seen across the country this week, whether it was Indiana and Michigan.
Michigan State.
Oh, Michigan State, right. And Kansas, Oklahoma State was another great one. It seems like the parity at the top is really providing us with some real entertaining college basketball, and I guess that's a good time for us to transition into our top 5 power rankings across the country, which is so hard to pick the 5 teams that we think are the best, and it seems as soon as we pick somebody in there, they lose. But I'll go first, guys, and at number 5, I got Georgetown. You know, when kind of taking a closer look at Georgetown preparing for the show tonight, there's not a hotter team in the country. Now, here's some trivia for you guys. Who has the nation's longest winning streak right now? And what high school did all their players go to?
Longest winning streak in Gonzaga?
No, nice guess, but that's not correct.
Did you hear me say I said Memphis?
Yeah, correct. 17 wins for the Memphis Tigers, of course, playing in a really diluted conference, USA. But still, you don't hear much about Memphis.
No, you don't. And you see the rank now, but you haven't really heard them. You know, they had a tough start, obviously. But, wow, I didn't realize that either.
Yeah, they only got 3 losses. I was surprised when I was looking at the rankings today that they're one of the few teams with three or fewer losses.
But, of course, no chance to gain really any marquee wins heading down the stretch here. Although, don't they play a team like Louisville in a late season
Not
out of conference? They used to do that.
They used to. I think they played them early in the year. That was, I think, their last loss, if I remember right.
Well, they're not in my top 5, but Georgetown is. And I got Gonzaga at 4, who, you know, no major roadblocks now from here to the end of the year. If they can, I still think they got to win their conference tournament to get that number 1 seed. But Gonzaga's at 4. Got the Cuse at 3. I want to put them higher, but the resume just isn't there for me to put them any higher. I really think that with Sutherland back, that things are starting to really come together. And when they come together for this team, we're the best team in the country. You know, we're up there with maybe Indiana is the only other team I think that can really be considered. But that's when we play good, and so I'm hoping to see more of that. Number 2, Miami, undefeated in the ACC still. And then number 1 was affirmed by that victory at Michigan State. Indiana, the Hoosiers. Burke?
I'm going to go with at number 5, Duke. You know, they still got a great resume. You know, they lost to Maryland Saturday night, and but you know, I still think they can beat anybody on any given night, especially on a neutral court. Number 4, I got Syracuse. You know, like you said, they've kind of bounced back here with beating up on some of the cellar dwellers in the Big East with Seton Hall, then actually beating a Providence team that was playing well coming in, but they really handled business there. And obviously some huge games coming up with Georgetown, Marquette Saturday, Monday. And number 3, I got Gonzaga. You know, they only have a couple losses on the year, and you know, I look for them to finish out the season on a big winning streak here and garner a number 1 seed. Number 2, Miami. It's not always pretty, but they've been able to win. You know, Virginia gave them a really good game this week, and Virginia really could have won that game. I don't know if you guys watched any of that, but it was a great game. Virginia hit some big shots late, and then Miami was able to secure the win with, you know, Virginia just kind of blew it down the end defensively, gave Miami some easy looks. And number 1, Indiana, you know, great win at Michigan State. They've kind of been 1 or 2 all year, and, you know, Oladipo's playing great, and, you know, he's looking at it. You know, they got a couple top 5 draft picks on that team, and, you know, talent usually wins out. So I got Indiana number 1.
Yeah, Oladipo, National Player of the Year.
He considered, you know, him and Zeller, you know, might hurt each other being on the same team as far as National Player of the Year consideration, but they're deep, they're athletic, they got shooters, they got big guys. They're well coached, obviously, and you know, they're a great team.
Brad, what do you got?
I have Syracuse 5th. Good couple of wins, but against the bottom of the Big East, so I'm really interested to see what they can do in the next couple of games, certainly on Saturday. Number 4, I have Miami. Not as high on Miami, at least recently as Verk, I guess you are. It's not a great Virginia team, and beating them by 4 on their home court, I'm not sure. It's an eye test thing with me. They stomped on Duke and beat Carolina pretty good, but I don't know. I feel like in some ways it's kind of like what Arizona was doing at the beginning of the year. They were winning and winning barely, and it was just kind of an omen that they were doomed to lose.
Clemson had Miami beat too.
Yeah, right.
And Miami, let's face it, if Miami's in the Big Ten or the Big East, they're not undefeated this late in the season, right?
They're not. And that makes it hard for me to think they're a legitimate Final Four candidate right now. But I do have them fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to argue with undefeated in any major conference this late in the season. Third, I have Michigan State. I debated moving them, but
I did too, Brad. But they lost at home. They lost on their home court. That's otherwise they would. That's why I didn't put them in as number 5 in my power rankings.
I debated that, but I think they're, with the exception of 2 losses to Indiana, they haven't lost since December. And Indiana's the best team in the country, I think. So I'm going to discount that a little bit. I think they're still playing solid, and what's probably the best top to bottom league in the country this season. So I've got Michigan State third, Gonzaga second. They're solid. I mean, they're not just beating teams; they're killing teams, and it's not an outstanding league, but they're beating good teams. I mean, there's some good teams in that league. St. Mary's is a good team. Santa Clara, they beat by 40 the other night. Santa Clara, is a pretty decent team, and so they're doing it and doing it well. So I think they're a solid 2. In Indiana, number 1, you can't argue with what they're doing. The talent's there. They're solid top to bottom. They can play a bunch of different styles, and they can a lot of different ways.
Well, there you have it.
Hey, buddy.
So Syracuse got Georgetown on Saturday, and then we don't even talk about it because it's such a big game. But on Monday they come back by having to travel to Wisconsin and face Marquette at 7:00 on Big Monday, and that's a game that's just poised for Syracuse to lose. It's just the game after the big one, but it's equally as important, according to the standings, is the Georgetown game. And then it doesn't get any easier after that. Saturday, March 2nd, they're playing Louisville in the Dome at noon, also on CBS. CBS getting the big home Syracuse games. And then a little break with a game against DePaul at the Dome on March 6th. But a DePaul team that's given a lot of top teams a really good game, whether it's Notre Dame or St. John's. And then we get Georgetown again on Saturday, March 9th to end the regular season at noon on Saturday, March 9th in Washington, D.C. And that's it for the regular season. So toughest stretch ahead for the Orange. It all starts Saturday. We're certainly excited. We'll be back here on next Thursday night to talk about it. Verk, Brad, thank you both for joining us. John Wallace, wherever you are, maybe we can catch up with you another time, maybe next week. And we apologize for those of you that tuned in hoping to hear that interview. But for thanks again to our sponsors, Madej, Maris, and Ricky, Generations Bank, and Newark Pilots. And thanks again for joining us on the Upstate Orange podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our feed on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or via RSS. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter by searching for Upstate Hoops. For my co-host Brad Connor, Matt Verkey, our producer Jeremy Hunt, I'm Jim Sinacropi. We'll see you back here next week.